here at the end of 2012 and started, plowed up some fields and started growing on a few acres. We're now growing on about 5 mixed vegetables, and every year kind of working on a little infrastructure. We have a farm store that we converted part of the old dairy barn into retail space, and that is now hosts our CSA pickups and is a seasonal farm store. And yeah, every year we kind of take on, the first couple of years we took on way too many infrastructure projects, and so we learned to bite off maybe 1 or 1.5 at a time. And so hoop house, kind of a hoop house every couple of years, and then some more renovations, and yeah, and so now we have those markets, the farm store, the CSA, and then also we do a lot of wholesaling through Three River Farmers Alliance with our friends at other farms, and we had been doing our wash pack activities under carport tents in this actually same location where our building is now for all the years. And gradually developed a plan to upgrade from that. Yeah.
What pushed you? You said one infrastructure project at a time. What pushed you at this point to doing this and saying it's time to bite the bullet?
A big piece of it, honestly, was that when we were planning out the financial end of how to finance a lot of these infrastructure improvements and equipment purchases and things like that over the years, we could function and wash all the vegetables and pack all the vegetables, and we have 2 walk-in coolers now. We functioned with 1 for a long time. We could actually move all of our food through those systems without this building, and so it was hard to justify the expense in the earlier years because it was hard to prioritize it over other things that were more easily translatable into increased production or increased revenue, or like the farm store space or the production spaces of hoop houses or things like that, or irrigation and fencing took priority over this. Mm-hmm. And then once we got those 2 things in place, then we were sort of like, okay, now we want to improve our efficiency in our systems, but it felt like less of a clear, like this purchase will translate into this number of additional, pounds produced or sales made. And so we knew all along we would love to work in the space, and that is also a big motivation. Mm-hmm. But it was also one that we could put off because we were able to actually perform all of those tasks with just not the ideal.
And it remains to be seen, right? Because you're just moving in. It remains to be seen what the sort of efficiency upgrades or whatever are. Do you have a good idea sort of in the top of your head or even data about will you be able to say the end of this season kind of ballpark the improvement in efficiency, like your output, throughput?
I
be
think
able to quantify that.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Already it's become more efficient just in the management of the structure. There's no real management of keeping it upright. To put it literally, we had 2 carports. It was a 20 by 20 foot space with the 2 carports, and the wash pack area, not including the field office, is an extra 10 feet long. So we're working with 20 by 30, and already so far we've just been putting through microgreens and our overwintered greens, and it's just, the flow's been great. Everything is level, which is a huge undertaking to kind of manage that every day. If you're working, last year, this was our temporary structure area while this was being built. Wow. So we were watching this whole process happen while we were washing. But when you're on wood chips, nothing's level, things get wet and they start to slide. So yeah, already efficiencies are drastically better. And I'm really excited to see, once we start getting in large amounts of crops, like how those noodles will flow. Mm-hmm. So really looking forward to that.
Amber, how long have you been with Stout Oak? Since the beginning, or?
Since 2016.
Uh-huh.
So not quite the beginning, but I've known Kate for years. So.
Yeah. And are you sort of just friends that met up, or in various ways, or?
Yeah. We actually met in Exeter at Blue Moon Market when it was a health food store, and I trained Kate at Blue Moon, and then life happened, and then in 2016 I had a life-changing experience that I just needed something new, and Kate had a position open, and I applied for it, and I've been here ever since. So
That's great.
Yeah.
It's like a good partnership.
Yep. Yeah, and we're here now. And I remember my first year here, the manager at the time, Julia, said someday we'll have a permanent structure when we were putting up the 2 carports, and I just thought, this works. Like 2 carports is fine. So it's been really cool to see just the overall change and just the graduation of what we've gotten to come to. So
I remember us on Zoom, what was it? I can't remember, a year ago or so, and sort of you had your little floor plan. I remember that rock, the picture of that.
Yeah.
And so I mean, just maybe tell us a little bit about how you ended up with, I guess, the footprint we talked about online, but like some of the structural stuff is pretty cool. And how you ended up with this kind of a span system, that kind of thing. Just some of the construction. That'd be really cool to understand what brought you to that after our other meeting.
Yeah. Well, I'll start, and then I'd love for you to answer this too. I think one of the priorities for us is our barn is where our packing happens, but we felt like the washing step has been able to happen in a basically outdoor setting all this time, and we really like that. We like the open air, we like the natural light that we had with our temporary buildings. And so, and our barn it's a bank barn. It was an old dairy barn that's built into the side of the hill here, and it's nice and cool, and that's great. But it's also kind of dark, and it doesn't have that feeling of working outside. And we all are farming, partly because we love to be outside. So we wanted to recreate that outdoor feeling, and knew that it would come with some compromises in terms of shade and wind and things like that. So, but that's why we have few walls. We may add more walls. We're already planning to add more walls, but we didn't want a totally indoor structure that needed to be with a lot of extra lighting or low ceilings or things like that. We just wanted to feel like we were kind of able to see the farm and feel like we're in the flow of the farm work, but be at least somewhat sheltered, mostly from sun.
Yeah, and in terms of building, when we had talked, we were still in the idea of what type of building did we want to choose. And we ended up finding this company down in North Carolina that did these steel truss kits. Yep. And they had so many ways to accommodate size that because they're built to order. Right. And we figured out what footprint would work best and how we wanted it to be a multi-functioning building. And with the post and trusses, we were able to kind of figure out the floor span or the floor space we needed for the wash pack and for a field office. And still be able, like having that open concept, still having the area outside of it to be utilized as well. So we're not just confined to a 40 by 20 foot building. We have a little extra. We can use the sunlight to help sanitize, and just kind of it gives it a little bit more flex, I guess to say.
This is really, I haven't seen this kit structure before, and it looks really cool. I can see other growers being interested in this.
It was really amazing to watch them put it together. It came on one small truckload. They had it packaged perfectly. That was really phenomenal. It was just a regular truck that pulled it on a trailer, and the trusses actually came in 2 sections, so they got bolted together at the top. So I think we were expecting a larger shipment to come, and it just really was this
and they probably put it up in
Package.
a day or two, I imagine.
It was a few. It was a few days for the trusses. It was two gentlemen who put it together. Jacob Holsapple from
Good Life.
Thank you.
Construction.
Good Life Construction. His wife is a good friend of ours, and he does tremendous work. So
He loved working with the
did.
kit, so it's not something he had done before.
Yeah.
And he's a contractor who does all kinds of different projects, but he liked it so much that he was going to encourage some of his other customers who are considering outbuildings to.
Yep. And the costs how did it end up comparing to, say, getting preformed trusses out of wood and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I don't know that we ever actually put together a full estimate of what it would have cost to build everything from scratch, because lumber prices were already cranking up when we and I'd have to pull up my email to Chris to have all my numbers fresh in my mind, but we didn't actually do that price comparison, but they honored a quote. Stroud's Construction is the name of a company that makes the trusses and the kits in North Carolina, and they're a family-run company, a small company, and they honored a quote that they'd given us the previous year, which was before the COVID-related lumber prices had gone up, which we were surprised at.
So they sent you the kit that was delivered was just the steel?
It was the steel and the posts and the lumber for the roof and the roofing.
Oh, the whole kit.
Wow.
Yep.
Whole kit and caboodle.
That's wonderful.
So the only thing that wasn't included that you're seeing is these walls that we added.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was $12,000.
12,000.
Yeah, I think
Right?
roughly.
Yeah, about.
Yeah, and we actually
Delivered.
selected the translucent panels outside of that as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's about what it was.
Yeah.
1,000. And then plus the concrete, which is probably
That was-
at least that.
It was close. Yeah.
Yep. It was 10 something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did end up going with pillars
Yeah.
for the posts, which we weren't actually thinking of when initially coming up with this building idea. So that kind of put a spin on some of the literal groundwork that had to happen. They're down about 4 feet, a little past just for frost because we're in New England. And that just helps kind of keep the integrity of the concrete floor from shifting.
Were
with
those poured into place, Amber? Or
they weren't. No, the pillars were delivered, and then the concrete itself was poured.